I let you live. I let you live.
Welcome to Decoding TV's coverage of The Last of Us Season 2 finale. Joining us today for this conversation, he is the co-host of the DLC video game podcast. He's also the host of the official Last of Us, the video game podcast. Christian Spicer, welcome back to Decoding TV.
I'm back. I'm here at the start. I'm here at the end, just the way people want their coverage to be. A little bit at the beginning, a little bit at the end. I'm like a spice. You know, you taste it at first and then you taste it at the end. Happy to be back with you both.
We're so thrilled. David Chen, I'm thrilled. Patrick Klepek is thrilled you're here. The Season 2 finale of The Last of Us is here. Let's talk about our overall thoughts on what happened. Christian Spicer, let's start with you. What did you think of the Season 2 finale of The Last of Us?
I didn't love it. I've been listening to you all. I also wrote up broad Season 2 thoughts over at my Substack, which is christianspicer.substack.com. It has some vague spoilers for the game and the show. I won't mention any of those here, but if folks want to read my broad full season thoughts, I put those up this morning or the day after the finale aired, whatever, time's weird. I generally, Dave, and I remember you talking about this on Filmcast about what was the second Spider-Verse movie called? Into the Spider, whatever the other Across the Spider-Verse. You talked about how that story felt incomplete to you.
Yes,
because it ends not ending a story. And I agree with you on that film, and I agree with you maybe broader, or I'll put words in your mouth, broader. I have a hard time loving what I'm supposed to consider a complete story, a season, an album of film that doesn't seem to have a complete arc, a complete story or emotional arc. And I think season 2 of The Last of Us, with the next batch of episodes we're going to get currently being called season 3, I don't think it tells a full story for any of its characters emotionally or even conceptually from where they start to where they end. And so the finale left me a little flat. The performances I thought were great, some amazing performances featured in that episode. I think Jesse is a tour de force in this episode. But as a whole, I found it disappointing as a potential bow on the end of a season.
Patrick Klepek, very curious if you feel the same way.
Complete mess.
Wow.
Makes me very nervous about the rest of this show, the rest of the storytelling, how the momentum, almost none about individual pieces, just like you're saying, Christian, worked for me. I think some incredible work from many different actors, individual scenes that work for me exceptionally well. But as a cohesive whole, I wanted to scream at the cliffhanger. I wanted to throw a shoe at. I take my foot off. I was in a car, and I wanted to throw the iPad.
You wanted to throw the iPad away.
I think it's the finale is all of my worries about the storytelling approaches to this season, immediately bearing fruit. What are we doing with the Seraphites, the WLF? Absolutely nothing. What are we doing with Abby? To absolutely nothing. And it's just so much for the show to bite off. And my hope, based on the early parts of this season, had been, I think, and putting aside any of my personal feelings on Last of Us Part 2, structurally, I think you have to radically rethink how you tell this story for it to be effective in the medium of television, given that you're not doing an 18-episode season to really tell everything that's here. Or, and if you're, once you're going down that road, maybe you're getting rid of some storylines or character, maybe, I don't know. They chose basically not to do that. This, outside of the Jackson stuff in the beginning with the invasion, it's kind of like season 1. We're doing a pretty close retelling of
wait, you mean it's closely following
how
the game is unfolding.
Yes.
Right. That's right.
And again, that is not a commentary on the game versus the television show. It is all just to say I found this a profoundly unsatisfying season of television that also had, I think, the best episode from the series, which only reinforces a point I think I made to you, and I'll end here, David. When we talked about that last episode, was I thought killing Joel was a mistake when they did it in the game. I think it was reinforced as being a mistake when it happened here, and I say that because the story that is now told in its wake, I don't think is particularly good, and the television show, where I'm left at the end of it, is baffled.
Yeah.
And the teaser for the next season, I think, is abjectly awful. And I cannot wait to watch this episode again with my wife to see how a normal person reacts.
Right.
Because I think they're just going to blink at it.
Well, to be fair, Patrick, I think we have talked about how we actually thought the concept of killing Joel is not a bad one, right? Like,
correct.
But just like the way it then played out in the game is not. But I agree. I have no opposition with the concept of killing Joel and like telling a story about that afterward. But just like the specific story they chose, maybe we're not as big fans of. I kind of got to agree with you guys. You know, it's interesting. Matt Goldberg has been writing written recaps for this show at decodingtv.com. You should read them. Subscribe for free at decodingtv.com. And he liked this episode. And actually, I thought he did a beautiful job like writing it up. And I really loved his recap. But I feel the same way as you guys, which is this show commits 2 cardinal sins in this final 5 minutes of the show, right? One is, and now look, like, I'm just going to say this without revealing anything from the game or whatever. I would be shocked if this is how Ellie meets her end, right? In the show.
Right.
If this is the way that they kill Ellie off, like, that would be very stunning to me, because especially given how Joel met his end, or like, that at least had some, like, grand build-up to it.
Well, also,
they just kill her. So, like, I just don't think that's how it's going to play out in the show, right?
Just the show. Literally, no one has. I'm pretty sure. Literally, no one's died off screen. It's just not how it's done. So for me to assume that you now kill the biggest character in the show off screen, no way.
It's
no
a fake
way.
Out. It's probably a fake out. You know, that is our assumption. And so that sucks. I just don't like that in general. And then you like reset everything and say, hey, we're actually going back in time. Now, to their credit, it's a big swing. Like, I don't think it's rare to have seen a show that has attempted something like this, right?
I could also jump off of a building and hope that like my body's just good enough to not crumple into dust at the bottom of it, but I'm not sure I'd do it.
Wow.
I think it's this finale is I don't like swing can be big. I don't like the swings. They like did not work for me. Am I supposed to care about these little side characters? Like, who like these little side characters are dying with Abby's group? Like, I don't know who they fucking are.
We haven't spent enough time with them.
Yeah,
they've been in 2 episodes.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Right. Like in the lodge, and then now.
Yeah.
But it's theoretically supposed to be like, oh, hey, you're about to. They say at the end, spoilers for this episode, obviously, Seattle. Day 1, you know, it's like, oh, we're about to experience those same events that we just did, but from a different perspective. And they expect that is a big enough tease for you that you're going to be like, ooh, I want to. But it's like, I don't know. Perhaps they have made a grave. I think Patrick's position is they have made a grave miscalculation. And I am somewhat inclined to agree with him. Again, it's like, oh, wow, I've never seen a show attempt that before. I don't think I have, where it's like, and the thing is, if a show did attempt that, it wouldn't be a 2-year wait until the next episode, right? Like,
I mean, the implication here, I don't think they'll actually do this, but there is if they are following through the biggest swing possible, it's that we just won't see Ellie for what, 3.5 years?
I don't know if that's true, because I don't know if that's true. Oh yeah, maybe. Like, who knows?
And presumably, if we're gonna, if like it's following through, I assume what's going to happen is a huge chunk of season 3 is Abby's story, and then we'll pick up and it'll push forward at the end of the next season.
Right, and then we'll intersect with Ellie again, probably at some point, assuming Ellie's not dead, which we do assume.
Well, I wonder.
Yeah. So, if Ellie was dying, the show would not do it that way. You know, I think we're all pretty convinced about that. But
If
anyway,
if you're gonna do an episode end like that, it should be the penultimate episode. Like,
yes,
that's like that's a really exciting. Like, oh my god, I can't wait till next week. Not, oh my god, like
it's gonna be 18 months.
If I've read up on the production correctly, like they're starting shooting like late summer, which means like, you know what I mean. So it's just
I'm not, when I see an ending like that with the shooting of the Ellie and then we're flashing, like I am not intrigued. I am profoundly annoyed. Like that's kind of my I'm not like, ooh, what's going, I'm like, oh, so really you're not going to resolve the Ellie death, which we don't even believe is really it's just like, I find it very frustrating. I find it very frustrating as an ending, and I don't know that what is there is enough to intrigue people. That said, big swing. I gotta admire the chutzpah. I gotta admire that they're like really taking a shot at it. So anyway, those are our overall thoughts on The Last of Us Season 2 finale. Let's talk about what actually happened this episode. I have some notes from what actually occurred, and we'll talk about what's going on here. Jesse and Dina are back at the Pinnacle Theater. Jesse's pulling an arrow out of Dina's leg. Looks very excruciating. Ellie returns.
Pushing through, technically. Yeah. Pushing through, not out. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ellie returns and shares a tender moment with Dina and reflects on the nature of Ellie's crimes. Like she says, I made her talk. I thought it'd be harder to do, but it wasn't. It was easy. I just kept hurting her. Dark shit. But Ellie also tells Dina what Joel did and why Abby and friends came to Jackson. She apologizes for withholding this information, and Dina says, they got to go home. They got to get out of here. It's a bad situation. So, next morning, Seattle, day 3. Dina gives Ellie a bracelet for good luck, and Ellie and Jesse are going out to the rendezvous point to meet Tommy. At which point, Jesse confronts Ellie about Dina being pregnant. Like he finds out the information. While on the way, they encounter some WLF cornering a Seraphite and begin torturing that Seraphite. Ellie wants to intervene, but Jesse stops her and says, "This is not our war." Ellie and Jesse meet at a library, and they talk about their feelings about Dina. Jesse says, "Yes, I love her, but not the way you do." Jesse then talks about falling in love with somebody, but not leaving Jackson because he believes that the community depends on him. So let's just pause here for a moment. You know, a lot of scenes here. I didn't know if there's anything here that you guys wanted to highlight about what's happening. Pretty straightforward, but yeah, any reaction to some of these earlier scenes in the episode?
I think this whole season and up through this point in the episode characterizes Ellie as reckless. And I think they hit on that again when the WLF are, run after the Seraphite in the parking garage. And I'm not sure in that moment what Ellie honestly thinks they can do. I get not wanting to watch a kid get killed and tortured, and I get the emotional connection of that I think we're supposed to assume that Ellie has, so she cares about all people, to some extent, except for the evil that she's committing. But, Jesse sit there and flat out says, we were outnumbered before he even gets to this isn't our war. Just a very rational, how are we going to survive that? And I don't know if this show addresses that part of Ellie. I feel like her character in this show has been very reckless, and that was another example of it. And I'm not sure if or when they plan to pay that off. So in this first part, that was the first moment that really jumped out at me was, what was Ellie going to do? Like, what was her thought there?
Ellie is almost advocating for this kind of sense of community that's very feelings and vibes based, is kind of my sense, right? Because later in the next scene, she confronts Jesse, and Jesse's like, "Hey, we got to go get Tommy. I voted against this mission because it was better for the community." And Ellie's like, "F your community! Like, you didn't want to save that innocent kid that we didn't know." And it's like, okay, I don't really see how that's related, but I think she's just kind of like, she on the one hand, there's this kind of solipsism to Ellie. I think there's nothing that exists beyond like what she feels, like who she's connected to and what she feels in a specific moment. Whereas Jesse's trying to have some kind of principles, at least this utilitarian of like, hey, we don't want to fight them because we'll die. I need to protect the people of Jackson. There's some more principled feelings, I think, for Jesse than for Ellie. That's my assessment. Patrick Klepek, any thoughts on that? Any of that?
Well, one, I mean, this is sort of one of my broader problems with the season is I think it does a poor job and maybe you two will disagree on whether they've been attempting to do this, but I think as a whole, The Last of Us season 2 does a poor job arguing for why Ellie is doing much of anything that she is up to. I don't think the character argues it very well. I don't think the circumstances, and maybe you're supposed to feel like she is being reckless, and you're supposed to feel that way, but that makes for like kind of a crummy show to watch. Right. Like I don't like. However, those dials are supposed to be turned. It's not making for an interesting tension if that's what they're going for. It mostly feels like I'm watching someone attempt to make a lot of poor decisions until other people intervene. And I mean, I see that arc playing out, but it's not really working for me the way it's constructed here. On the other hand, and especially upsetting given the events that occur in a very hurried fashion by the end of this episode, like having is it young Mazzino, is that how you pronounce his name, like playing Jesse, like one of the standouts, like one of my favorite characters in the game.
So good.
He completely, he looks, I mean, he feels like he's been copy pasted a bit from the, like they just nailed the actor on likeness, on like he's just he is such a presence on screen. And so he was one of those, like, as I knew what was coming, I'm like, maybe like, I looked at the money count on the episode. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I might get a little season 3 Jesse, like based on how much time is left.
The runtime. You were looking at the run. Yeah, me too. I was like, oh, maybe
6 minutes. Like, oh, come on. Maybe we're saving the big shootout for like season 3. No.
Nope.
But I just wanted to, praise his performance here, because I think he's been like limited time on screen, like especially because it's a television show. So the direction is obviously pointed at Dina and Ellie, but like every time he's on, and this episode, it feels like they knew, hey, like this is his send off, absent any flashback stuff that we might get in the future. Let's give him some like true moments to shine, like as a character, as an actor. And I think like absolutely like works. Like it made the foreboding of knowing what was coming like all the more upsetting, because I was like, oh, he's so good. He's so good.
Well, the thing too is, in my opinion, Jesse in the game is such a nothing character. Like there's virtually nothing to him. And I don't think it's just young Mazzino did amazing, but they also invested a lot of script writing, screenwriting into this character in the show in a way that he wasn't in the game. And I do think like together those things make it a much more memorable character. But yeah, I would agree that the show has opted more for surprise than for explanation, Patrick, right? Like we spend most of the season not understanding what's driving Ellie. We get the flashback where we finally get some insight into what's going on in her mind, and why she would go and kill a bunch of people because of this Joel relationship. So it's not the greatest storytelling decisions in that regard. But anyway, Ellie and Jesse debate whether to go help Tommy, who's sniping dudes, or to head to the Seattle Aquarium where they believe Abby is hiding out. Now it's time for Dave's Seattle Corner, which is a feature where I talk about the Seattle references in this episode of The Last of Us. This show takes place in Seattle. It was not filmed in Seattle for obvious reasons. And there are several Seattle references. First of all, there's a very close-up shot of drugs on the ground. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Like syringes on the ground. Kind of odd.
And that was odd. And also, drug use is rampant in many areas of downtown Seattle. It's actually a huge problem. And so I found it's interesting that they captured that. It probably wasn't as bad as it was. Like, it's worse now than it was during Outbreak Day in the show. So, maybe they're exaggerating a little bit there. We see a Seahawks banner in the background. Seahawks is the football team of Seattle. So, very cool. I saw a crane in the background, a construction crane in the background. I know that doesn't seem unique, but like for a while, Seattle was one of the cities in the country that had the most construction cranes, or like the most construction cranes per capita or whatever, because so much building was going on here. And then, of course, the WLF headquarters is at a Costco, which for those who are unaware was founded in Washington. And is one of my favorite locations. Probably the Costco that's depicted is one that's just down the street from me. So was a fan of seeing that. So anyway, some Seattle references for those who are interested. Now, I will say there's some Seattle stuff that doesn't really make sense. Ellie is, first of all, like a lot of people have commented on thunderstorms in Seattle. That makes no sense. In general, there are not thunderstorms in Seattle. However, in the show, they do make clear that this is like a once in a generation storm, and like
A convergence.
It's a convergence. It's a freak storm. So like no one. So anyway, that's the explanation for that. There are a lot of questions about where it is Ellie shows up when her boat crashes. Like a lot of people are like, where is that location? You know, and so some people think it's Bainbridge Island, some people think it's Harbor Island. Like there's not a lot of places where it really makes a lot of sense, is what I'm trying to say. Based on like the environs. But anyway,
I thought it was Narrative Island. Have you ever been there?
it's Plot Island, where plot needs to happen. By the way, I do have to say, first of all, I want to acknowledge on decodingtv.com, if you become a paid subscriber, we are doing bonus podcast episodes where we compare the show with the game. It's been so fun to talk about it and also to get like the feedback from people commenting at decodingtv.com. So thanks to everyone who's doing that. We're going to do that for this episode as well. But we'll have more to say about like how the game compares during that bonus episode. I'm just going to put this out there. Pretty weird digression for Ellie to be like going off to the aquarium, and then she winds up on this island, and then she's about to have her belly cut open, and then something happens, and then it's like, oh well, okay, I guess I'm free, and I'm just gonna keep going to the aquarium. It's like, what was?
Well, it's because this is the overstuffed nature. Like,
right
there is an argument to be made that this season would have been more effective absent any introspection or examination of the WLF and the Seraphites, and that you were only getting information about them as Ellie, like as our core group sort of encounters, and like, who are those people? And then subsequent seasons could get into who they are as characters, are just closer in proximity. But I feel like she ends up on Narrative Island because like, oh right, like that assault is happening. We have no justifiable reason to flash over to that and give you any context. So we're just gonna
just throw Ellie in there. She's somehow involved peripherally, and that's how you know.
It's really silly. And like these people are so scary that they're gonna have her in a chance to kill her and then just leave her. Do these seem like people who would just leave her? Like they would slice her throat and run off. Like the idea to leave a loose end does not line up at all with the faction as has been perceived.
Or at least leave her tied up and come back to it later. You know, like I don't know. But
there was no time they were going to lose spent there. They didn't show you earlier that they interrogate someone for hours, and we don't have time to do that with this person, so cut her free. I mean, it takes half a second to gut somebody. You know, like the time it took to drop her, they could have gutted her and then dropped her.
I think what we are saying is the Seraphites not very efficient with their time. Like they need some time management training. Is the problem we have there. Okay, so Ellie and Jesse debate whether to help Tommy, who's sniping dudes, or go to the Seattle Aquarium. Ellie takes a boat to the aquarium. Storm overtakes her. She ends up on some unknown island. She's about to die, but all of a sudden the horn sounds and the woman says, "The village!"
The village.
So they leave her alone.
Shyamalan movie.
Yeah, and then Ellie decides, okay, I guess I shouldn't take any lessons from that just happened, and just keep going on whatever the mission I was doing before. She makes it to the aquarium, sees that there are WLF people sleeping there. She encounters Owen and Mel, and she demands that they tell her where Abby is. And Owen says, don't tell her because she's going to kill us either way. And then Ellie says, no, I won't because I'm not like you. Owen reaches for a gun. Ellie shoots at Owen, but the bullet goes through him and also hits Mel, killing both of them, as well as Mel's unborn child, because it's revealed that Mel is pregnant. There is a brutal, traumatic, heartbreaking scene where Mel asks Ellie to extract the baby. But Ellie doesn't understand how to do it. And both Mel and the baby die. And yeah, that was hard to watch, guys. I did not enjoy that at all. And, it's to show you the terrible consequences of Ellie's decisions, I think, is what this. But they really laid it on thick with that one. They really laid it on thick. Any thoughts, Patrick? It sounds like you were pretty annoyed with this scene.
No, actually, no. This is actually one of my favorite scenes in the episode. Because I think some of the show, at its best in this storyline, is showing a conflicted Ellie. And I think Bella as an actor sells that pretty. Clearly she did not. I believe that what she was saying was true. I do think she kind of just wanted to be pointed, scare them off, and run off. What she did to Nora was very personal, circumstantial. But I do think there was
Nora was very cold and cruel to her.
I'm not gonna say Nora asked for it, but Nora didn't do herself any favors in the situation. She was definitely thumbing the wound in a way that I think the difference between that moment and this moment is that Ellie has that sequence with Dina where she sort of confesses a real guilt about Nora and how all that went down. And I think this is a reflection of this journey she's going on, where she is, because of circumstance, because of Joel, nature, nurture, what have you, she is capable of unbelievable acts of violence, but she is not so far gone that she doesn't feel trauma in response to them. Right. Joel shoots up a hospital out of love, but does not appear to be a guy who sits around thinking about it very much. He sits around thinking about the consequences to Ellie, about how she feels about his actions, but you don't get the sense that he's thinking about nurse number 4 that he mowed down and Ellie is just not that person, or not there yet. And certainly much of The Last of Us Part 2 seems to be exploring the question of the second season. I mean, exploring what does it mean to go on this escalating ladder of violence, and what is the toll on our characters. That scene, well, yes, the pregnancy angle does really emotionally sort of push you to a place. I thought it was pretty brilliant how the single shot ends up taking out both of them, and you can just see Ellie, the way she's oh fuck, really, this is not really Owen. I think she was cool with Owen. Owen kind of seemed like a prick. I think I'm okay with you dying, but I don't think she had any intention of taking out Mel. And I thought that scene sold that pretty well.
It is an extremely effective scene. I will say that, and I wasn't trying to downplay it. This scene traumatized me way more than the same exact scene in the game. I like how Matt Goldberg put it at decodingtv.com. Again, subscribe for free to get recaps and reviews. He said that Ellie has a self-centered mode of thought that pretends violence can be neatly contained, end quote, which I thought, she thinks, I'm just going to kill Abby and there will be no other consequences as a result. And she is finding out very quickly there are pretty freaking harsh consequences. Christian Spicer, any thoughts on this scene with Owen and Mel and Ellie's confrontation with them?
This is one of the beautiful scenes of the episode. At the top, I mentioned I think the episode as a whole wasn't great. This scene, Ariella Barr, the actor's name who plays Mel, I think nails this. It's subtle, it's quiet. She's talking, to herself, but also to Ellie in those moments. Good job. Oh, you did it. It's just heartbreaking in the best way. This is what I kind of come to apocalyptic prestige TV for, right? I don't plan on leaving smiling and laughing and feeling good about humanity. But in that moment, it is such a human moment. And there's so much beauty in it, and caring and trying and nurturing. And I think it's a beautiful, hopeful moment in this darkness. And wow. I really loved that, because there she is. Hopeful. She's dying. She knows she's dying.
Right.
And her concern is for her unborn child, and trusting it to this woman that has just done these horrible things.
That has shot her. But yeah, I think there's some truth in what you're saying for sure, right? But I don't know, the beauty for me was overridden by Ellie's callousness, the sort of the chaos of what Ellie has unleashed onto the world, right? The sort of overall cruelty of the entire situation. That those were kind of my takeaways. I saw very little. I agree. Like she's like trusting her. She's trusting her. She's like, hey, like make a transverse incision, and she's like, did you get it? Did you get it? You're like, you got it, right? You got it. And it's just,
and
it's a brutal scene. But yeah, beauty is not the word I would use to describe it. So, but it's interesting that's how you. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the beauty I see in it is hope for a better tomorrow. And that you are giving, because it's maybe the only option Mel has, but she is giving her child to her enemy or to an enemy in hope that this child will still have a better life. This idea that there's better on the horizon. Where I question kind of this scene, and this is maybe a through line through this whole season, is this idea of anyone letting anyone live. Like, how many times does that have to come back to bite you before you are Joel? Like, you kill everyone. Like, we are here because we both let people live. We are not good people. The world at large is out to get us. It's dog eat dog. When can we embrace that? And so I don't quite understand that. Let anyone let it. Maybe I'm just the jerk. But sorry, Dave. Sorry, Patrick. You guys are dead in my future.
Here's what I'm hearing from Christian. Here's the two takeaways I'm hearing from Christian. Right. Number one, if you have someone strung up, you might as well just cut their belly and let the intros out right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't waste a minute. Yep.
Number two, never leave anyone alive at the scene. Right. Like
no
these
witnesses.
These are the big lessons that Christian's drawing from this. Okay. So anyway, Jesse and Tommy show up at the aquarium. They bring Ellie back to the Pinnacle Theater, and they talk about going home. Now, actually, a couple of other Seattle corner things I want to point out. The outside of the aquarium actually is really close to what it actually looks like in real life. So wanted to shout that out, that they did a good job. And it is like located at that place on the waterfront, like it appears in the show. Later, also, we see the WLF headquarters. It's built inside of an actual stadium. Like it's referencing a real life stadium in Seattle called Lumen Field. So if you Google Lumen Field, it's where like the Seahawks play and stuff. It's identical to, the way it's structured, the screen and everything. It's identical to what you see in the show. So anyway, some Seattle Easter eggs for you. But anyway, Jesse and Tommy show up and bring Ellie back to Pinnacle Theater. They talk about going back home. And they talk about how, what motivated Jesse to come out and find Ellie. It's because he realized Ellie would have come out and searched for him as well if their positions were reversed. But before they can have too many emotions about that, Abby shows up, takes Tommy hostage, and shoots Jesse in the head. She tells Ellie to stand up and expresses like, I let you live and you wasted it. Before opening fire on Ellie, we cut to black, and then we see Abby waking up on day one of Seattle. We're going to relive the events of this whole season from Abby's perspective. And that's kind of how this season ends. I want to say, I actually really appreciate how Jesse's death occurs. It's pretty much identical in the game as well as the show, where it's just all of a sudden, like one minute you're talking to this guy and reflecting on your fond feelings for each other. And the next he is killed brutally in a random act of violence. There's no like gurgling last words. It's just boom. He's just out. He is dead. It is pretty shocking, I have to say. It's pretty shocking the way it plays out, and again shows kind of the consequences of Ellie's actions, in my opinion, and which are an extension of Joel's actions and Abby's actions. So yeah, any thoughts on how this final sequence of events played out, Patrick Klepek?
The Jesse thing, I think it's, your point is well made, especially with the benefit of hindsight, because you don't realize in the moment that you're watching. Like often when characters like about to go into a gunfight, like might not come out the other side. Yeah. Characters get a chance to talk to each other.
Tell my wife I love her and blah blah. Like
right,
all
and
this,
they have that like that final farewell conversation. But if I think you were to ask anyone watching the show, like who do you think dies next in the show? Like I don't think Jesse, like the too important, this charismatic guy, Alien, they really do a good job table setting to pull not a bait and switch, but just a surprise and like shocking. Yeah. And the fact that it happens so cleanly and like so quickly, like as the audience, you have no time to process it. Yeah. Ellie, the reason Ellie just gives up is because like she's given no opportunity to even think through her actions. Like I think the death of Jesse and hearing Tommy,
Abby has her dead to rights. Like she's got no.
She's
options.
got me. Like I'm fucked. I'm fucked.
Okay.
Like and that is just so contrasted to, the buildup of the Ellie that has sort of been happening across the season is one that is
multiple hours of Ellie like strategizing, but then all of a sudden it's like boom, it's over. Like it's over. And I love the abruptness of it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Patrick.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. Christian, any thoughts on the sequence?
What I found surprising about the sequence is when Jesse and Ellie heard the commotion from within the theater that they just ran out the door. That didn't seem like something Jesse would do. It seemed like something Ellie would do. It seemed reckless. I have to. There is another way into this space, I think, because we saw Ellie come from the back at some point when Tommy, just before that, Tommy and Jesse were sitting there talking, and we see kind of Ellie come by the curtain, by the drum kit, and out to meet them. I don't think Jesse would be a run out the front door kind of guy.
Christian, have you been taking like survivalist training or something like that? Because what I'm hearing from you is,
Dave, you're already dead. You've been gutted an hour ago.
But this is
have high situational awareness. Always be checking your exits.
I think the show lays the groundwork for him to make a poor decision. Like how many times throughout the show does it pause to be like, I'm going to be a father. Like, why are we not going to go after this Seraphite? Because he doesn't know that's who that is, but you know what I mean? We're not going to go after this kid because, well, one, pragmatically, it's a poor choice, but also I have a child to think about. And so I think in that moment, it's not like they're in a big group and like, the village could be under attack. It's like, no, Dina is under attack. Like Tom, like those are two characters where I don't think either one is in a state to act emotionally, like situationally correct. So I bought it, even if like it betrays a bit of, especially Jesse, like the real smarts that he's shown, like especially in this episode.
Maybe Dina is in danger, basically, right?
But that's what I mean. Like if he thinks Dina, thus his child, is in danger, that's when all situational awareness goes away, and I can certainly understand that. I
do think that the way they reveal Jesse finds out about the pregnancy is cool because they have set up that Dina likes to drink in a former episode, and then it's like, why would she refuse a drink at one of the most critical times? That doesn't make any sense.
This that happened to my wife. We some of the earliest days of our oldest were very touch and go on whether like everything was going to be okay, and so my wife was not prepared to want to talk about it, and she is not someone who has ever willingly turned down a drink put into her hand in her life. And I mean that in the most loving way possible. But she was pregnant and we were visiting with some friends, and the types of friends were like, these are friends we hang out with and have some drinks with. And they bought something special for her. And she walks in and one of the friends greets us and it's like, hey, by the way, like I got one of these for you. Goes to hand it over. She's like, oh, that's okay. I'll have one in a little bit. Pauses and goes, holy shit, you're pregnant. And she was like, shh, we're not telling people, but immediately got in the exact same way.
Wow, she didn't even turn it down. She just she deflected. She said, I'm going to have one in a little bit.
We learned our lesson from that moment. I was like, I think your tactics there were poor. I think you should have accepted the drink, didn't have to open it, but like, oh, thank you. And then
thank you.
We went to another party a couple of weeks later where we still weren't ready to talk about the pregnancy. And so, well, what am I going to do here? Like, everyone's going to I'm like, accept the beer, go to the bathroom, you dump it out into the sink, you fill it with water, and like then if you have to sip something, like you can kind of fit into the party that way. And if someone ever asks, like, do you need a drink? You say, no, I'm good. I've got one. And it's full of water. And that got us through a 3-hour social gathering.
Wow. Yet another way that Patrick Klepek has mastered the arts of deception. Anyway, I like the way the reveal played out in the show. I thought that was very well done. Christian Spicer, going back to your reaction to this scene, other than Jesse's lack of tactical brilliance, any other thoughts?
I thought it was it played well as a moment of television. I don't love it as the last 2 minutes of television. most specifically the blackout at the last gunshot is a hard one to take as an end to a season, and not, as we mentioned, not the end of a penultimate episode. I think Abby's performance here, though, is great. Abby's the character. I think that performance is excellent, though. She's resolved. She's strong. I know she's not as muscular as the character is portrayed in the video game, but I think she owns that scene. I think she commands it really well. I think I had no doubt in my head that Tommy was incapacitated in a way that Tommy could not make a play here. You know, sometimes you see those scenes and it's like, oh, how is this person going to control two people in this moment that are both vicious killers? Clearly Tommy or Ellie, one of them could move and take out Abby. I think Abby held that scene really well. She was really strong in that moment. I think if it happened anywhere else in the season, I probably would have liked it more than when it happened at the end of the season finale.
I agree. I think it's really going to test people's patience to end the show in this way. And then it's probably going to be at least a year, right, until the next Last of Us season comes out. And to leave that unresolved during that time, it feels kind of shitty. I'm just going to put that out there. Like, it doesn't feel great. And it does feel very abridged, especially because the season's only 7 episodes. It feels like if there's a 10-episode season, you could have at least have some follow-up to understand what exactly happened after those gunshots at the end of this episode. So
if this was a part, if HBO doesn't do this, but like some of the streamers will do, part, season 2, part 1.
Yeah,
it's
no, they have done it. They have done it for they did it for The Sopranos. So
oh,
they
really?
have done it in the past. Yeah.
But is that the only instance of them doing that? Because it's not really their.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not common. I would agree it's not common, but
it's not like then again, in the same way that if this was the penultimate episode, having that as a cliffhanger is fun and appropriate because you know that you're going to get a follow up pretty quickly. And here.
They don't even have a date yet, right? There's no date yet.
No, the last I read was that, that they're going into production over the summer. But again, that is optimistic case is like late next year. Optimistically. And at that point, you're starting to run into House of the Dragon. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know,
that surprised me. I thought there'd be a stealth Back to the Future 2-3 drop. I thought there maybe we'd get maybe we'll get that Tuesday, like surprise, we filmed concurrently. I agree. We have not seen anything like that yet.
Spicer texted me this morning. He's like, they have to have filmed concurrently, right? They can't just leave people like that, right? And it's like, no, I think they're just going to leave people in that, with this uncertainty. And I just don't think that is good storytelling in this day and age. And it really kind of sucks. It's fascinating to think about what this show is going to be in season 4, right? Like Bella Ramsey is going to look like a whole different person by then. I think they'll have aged significantly by that point, and is my guess. So I don't know how it's all going to like tie in together. We'll discuss more speculation on the bonus episode. There is one scene we didn't talk about. I want to mention there is a WLF camp at a Costco, probably the one that I go to regularly. And Isaac and Elise Park are talking about the storm, and they're trying to locate Abby. And Abby's very important to Isaac for reasons that are unclear. And her entire crew has disappeared. Abby, Owen, and Mel. Tonight of all nights, because Isaac is planning some kind of large operation. We don't know what it is. We don't know what the goal is. We see glimpses of it, but that's it. So I don't really know.
A glimpse of why I should care. I can't find it. Where is it? Why do I care about these characters?
Yeah. So anyway, Isaac sees Abby as a successor to him after some big operation they have planned. I am curious to see how the show is going to build out Abby as a character, because she's theoretically of massive importance to the WLF. So how are they going to make her seem important? Certainly we know how they do. Yeah.
She's so young. Isaac is not young, and other WLF members we've seen are not young. And I don't know why Abby hasn't shown this brilliant tactical mind. We haven't why is she the successor? Why not?
Yeah. I think we're going to find, I hope we find that, the show better have a good answer for that, because it's really teeing that up as a question. I think when you play the game, it's very obvious why Abby would be important. Because she's physically so imposing that it's you can understand why that would be a really useful person. But in the show, we have none of those. We have none of that information. So, closing thoughts on The Last of Us season 2. At the end of the day, it was one of the most seasons of television ever.
Yeah, I don't. I guess where I'm left is frustrated. I think there were a lot of elements here to tell. I'm frustrated by the story that's being, the way it was told, more than I am about its component parts. That's why I always go back to, David, you and I talking about, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with killing Joel. Now justify it with the story you're going to tell because of it. That's a big weight. Like, go do something with it. And I get to the end of this season, and I don't feel the justification there, and I'm just like not buying enough about this story. And again, the sprawling nature of it, I think it utterly collapses under the weight of the sprawl, which is just easier to do in a video game. It's easier to do with more time. And this show put aside, there's a long video game this is adapting. It's 7 episodes. That's short even by prestige TV standards. And perhaps they broke down how they wanted to do the episodes, and this is just like, it was not 7 because David Zaslav said you only have the budget for 7. It kind of only makes us to do 7 because then we're going to do blah. And so maybe that, if I take it from that perspective, but I just end up frustrated. I think that's where I'm at, and the wind is out of my sails on this show. I'll obviously keep watching it because I want to watch it with all of you and watch it with our audience. But absent these obligations, like, I don't know that this is a show that I would want to come back to for the next season.
You would just peace out. Your wife would probably still want to watch the show, right? So you probably still watch.
We'll loop back around next week. I mean, I think that is true. But she was one of those people that, she's just not familiar with the game, and so had no, and like, her favorite parts of this season was anything involving Joel. And it's always, liking Abby as well, but Abby or Ellie in proximity to Joel. And so I don't know, like, there's no way we don't keep watching the show, but I don't know. It does not leave me confident about the future of the show, I guess is what I'll say. And the only thing that at least excites me is I like Caitlin Dever. I like Jeffrey Wright. I like all these people. I'm sure there'll be great scenes, but there's not a lot that's telling me it's going to add up to wonderful storytelling. I feel like I'm going to get a bunch of really great moments with really great actors, but be pretty frustrated at the greater story being told. And I don't see any evidence of it going in a different direction at the end of season 2.
Christian Spicer, closing thoughts on season 2 of The Last of Us?
I unapologetically love season 1 of this show.
Same.
And I unapologetically love Last of Us now, the part 1, the video game, and Last of Us part 2, the video game. Yes, I'm biased. I worked on the official video game podcast, blah, blah, blah. But I love that video game. I think The Last of Us part 2, it represents so many of the reasons. I'm not going to spoil anything specific, but it represents so many of the reasons why I love video games as a narrative medium. And I love the story that it tells and how it tells it. So all of that coloring my thoughts here. I think this is, as a whole, a disappointing season of television, whether constrained by budget or not. And I don't know. I think the way the timeline of the show and the narrative, I think, does a disservice to the characters. I loved the flashback episode. I really enjoyed your all's conversations about it. But in the course of this season, what that means for these characters, what it represents, and where we're left at the end, I'm left frustrated. I think the show had a Herculean task to follow up The Last of Us season 1 and to adapt The Last of Us part 2 into a television show. I think they tried really hard. And while I enjoyed moments of it immensely, I think ultimately they came up short, unfortunately. Big swing. Took a big swing even trying. And I think ultimately they maybe fouled it, deep right field, but it was still a foul ball, not the home run they intended to hit.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything both of you guys said. I think ending the show in this fashion in season 2 feels pretty unforgivable to me for a TV show. Just the double whammy of the probable Ellie death fake out, and then, by the way, we're cutting to a whole different person and we're going to tell their story instead. Feels kind of deathly to me in terms of extinguishing audience interest, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe prove me wrong, world. Prove me wrong. Anyway, you can find Christian Spicer's work on the DLC podcast as well as on his newsletter. Christian, what's the URL for that again?
christianspicer.substack.com.
Check him out there. Christian Spicer, thanks for joining us today for our conversation about The Last of Us Season 2.
It is my pleasure.
Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.